I'm Stephanie Jordan, Local Food Program Manager here at Sustainable Solano. Welcome to Bounty of the County. This is presentation number 2, and we're super excited to have all of you joining us this afternoon. I think we had about 70 people register for this one, so kudos to all of you, and thanks to all of you again for joining us. Bounty of the County is a celebration of farms, food, independent restaurants, and wineries based here in Solano County, California. The event runs for 6 weeks. We kicked it off on September 1st, and we will be going through October 10 this year. And we originally wanted to create Bounty of the County in order to raise public awareness of Solano-based farms and also the specialty crops that they grow, as well as independent restaurants who are using those products, and of course our local wineries. And so the farms participating in Bounty of the County this year do grow specialty crops, and those are vegetables, fruits, tree nuts, and culinary herbs, in case you're wondering. There's some nursery products thrown in there too, but we're really focusing on the edible stuff that we can all eat, which is the best part, right? And this event also feeds into Sustainable Solano's larger vision, which is to build a more robust local food system here in Solano County. We have hopes that we can have a food system that is environmentally sustainable and more resilient, especially in times of crisis, and equitable, and also one that builds the local economy. So we are also using this Bounty of the County event and platform to raise funds for farmers who were hit pretty darn hard by some wildfires that broke out the week of August 17. And there was a lot of loss and damage, but we have also seen the community step up in a tremendous way and want to help. So 100% of all tax-deductible donations that Sustainable Solano receives in the month of September will get channeled specifically to the farmers, ranchers, and growers who experienced loss from those fires. Excuse me. To make a donation to this fund, you can visit sustainablesolano.org, and I believe Allison will be posting some various links to our website and to some others as we go along. So keep your eye on that chat. Also, please keep an eye out that many wineries and other businesses and restaurants participating in Bounty of the County are running some specials to help with these fundraising efforts. We hope that you will get out there and purchase goods from these businesses and help our local farmers at the same time. So just remember that every dollar that you spend at a restaurant that sources local ingredients does help build our local food system and helps our farmers. All right, before I introduce our featured trio, I have some Zoom housekeeping items for all of you. So audience members, as Allison mentioned, you have entered on mute, and you will be remaining on mute for the duration of this presentation until the end, but we will unmute you for the question and answer session at the end of the presentation. And so speaking of the Q&A, you have a couple of options. One is you can hang on to your question and do the raise hand button at the end, in which case you can speak directly to our guests, or you can post your question in the chat, and then we will just reread that question for you at the end. So those are your options. Think about it as we're talking, and we hope you'll ask some questions. All right, so this week's guests are our farmers, Mike and Courtney Wilkinson of Wilkinson Acres. Our chef is Michael Waring of Michael Waring Restaurant in Vallejo. And our featured winery of the week is Sassoon Creek Winery, which is led by winemaker Brian Babcock and also Katie Babcock. So welcome all of you guys. I'm gonna circle back to our farm first, Wilkinson Acres. You guys are a 5-acre certified organic farm located in the Sassoon Valley. And before we got on this call, I was remembering and was reminiscing with Mike that Mike and I met about 3 years ago, I think. We feel like it's like 10 years ago. It feels like 10 years ago. We met at a Starbucks, and I was really interested in learning more about his farm. He was buying an existing farm, and this was a career change for you guys. And so I would love to have you talk to us about what spurred you to take on the farming operation and do what you're doing today?
So yeah, thank you very, very much for having us. We are extremely excited about this, yes, and a little nervous, so please forgive me. Back to your 3 years ago at Starbucks. Yes, big grand ideas. We were both working. She was a high school teacher. I was a building engineer in San Francisco. We were pretty much just done working for other people, and we wanted to grow healthy organic food for our community. And we found an amazing farm from a previous farm couple that had been farming the land for about 9 years, Shooting Star Organic Farm, Shooting Star CSA.
Yeah.
And so it was like the universe wanted this for us. We came in, all the infrastructure was already here. We were able to just basically take on the same stewardship, you know, stuff that they did. So yeah, we had some big grand ideas, and
learned a lot last year.
We did learn a lot. We thought it wouldn't take as much money as it did, and you know, we found out, you know, farming is really hard.
But also really fun and really rewarding, and it's given us an opportunity to explore a bunch of different, you know, avenues and meet all sorts of people that we never would have before. And it's like the whole community here has been really welcoming, and it's just been really awesome to learn how to do this at the same time that we're building a business. Yeah.
She and I have always had a passion for growing fruits and veggies. It was just something that we never thought that we could do commercially, and
until we did.
Yeah. Until we did. We just made the leap. So
yeah. So tell us about your practices. You guys are a low-till farm, and the point of that, if I remember, is to help build the nutrients in the soil. So what does that mean exactly? Can you tell us a little bit about your farming practices?
Sure. Yeah, so we refer to ourselves as low-till or minimal-till. The reason why we try to say minimal-till is, you know, it's a very small operation. It's just basically the two of us and a couple of part-time employees. So we have to use our tractor. It's just kind of a necessity. But we do try to use it as little as possible, because the more you break up your soil and the more you till it in, you're destroying all the good bacteria and all the good organisms that really give your plants and your vegetables and fruits, you know, their life and their flavor and their benefit to you. So yeah, we try to do things like, you know, minimal tilling. We try to row covers using high quality compost and organic everything, certified organic inputs, because, you know, what you put in your body is pretty important. So,
and you know, and we are certified organic, so we take great pride in what we do not put on our products, and in our soils. So, you know, we feel that you build your soil, your soil grows your great product. So that's kind of how.
Right. Yeah. So tell us what you're growing these days. I know we're kind of at a funky place. We're a little bit between summer and fall, but yet there's still a lot of really great summer produce out there. So what's happening in that field?
Yeah, a lot. We're kind of, like you said, kind of in the weird transition phase, but we've definitely still got, you know, beautiful heirloom tomatoes. We've got lemon cucumbers and regular cucumbers. We've got a bunch of different kinds of peppers. If you come to our farm stand, which we'll talk about in a sec, but if you come to our farm stand, you'll see we have like at least a half a dozen kinds of sweet and hot peppers. And then moving into the next season, we'll have stuff on the table like broccoli, cauliflower, kale, all the fall, winter veg that you can get certified organic here.
And so when is your farm stand? How can people find your produce?
Yes.
Our farm stand is every Saturday from 8 a.m. to noon.
Here at the farm.
Here at the farm. We might push it back a little bit later in the year because it's kind of dark later in the year, you know. But as of right now, 8 a.m. to noon every single Saturday. Show up early because that's when all the good stuff goes.
And we actually just started doing a new thing recently. We have pre-order produce boxes available online. So people can go on our website, and we have a couple different options for produce boxes. You could just literally purchase it through our website, it'll be ready for you to go. We can do contactless delivery, you know, pop it in your trunk if that's what you want. So yeah, it's another cool little feature that we've got at our farm stand too.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Mike and Courtney. So one last question for you, and then I'm going to turn it over to Michael. Tell us, what are you selling to Michael Waring?
Well, a bunch of different stuff. You know, it's really cool that Michael Waring's menu changes very often, so he's able to showcase a lot of our different products right now. And I think for the recipe that he's got for this evening, he's got some of our big heirloom tomatoes, some of our shishito peppers, and some of our really awesome lemon cucumbers, which are a cool kind of novelty item that we have.
Yeah, great, awesome. All right, so speaking of your partner restaurant, we're going to shift gears over to Chef Michael Waring of Michael Waring Restaurant, which is at 8300 Bennington Court in Vallejo. It's in the Hidden Brook neighborhood. Normally, Michael would be serving up a delicious prix meal in his charming and intimate restaurant, but because of COVID, he has shifted modes and is now creating these amazing meal kits, which are available for pickup on Sunday afternoons after you place an order by Friday. So I'm going to hand it over to you now, Michael, and I think you're going to demonstrate something that's coming up in this week's meal kit. Is that right?
Yeah, kind of, yeah. What we wanted to do was kind of show what we've done here at the restaurant for the past 8 or so years, which, you know, of course is a representation of myself and where I've kind of been and that kind of thing. What I wanted to kind of do was try to showcase a little bit about the philosophies of kind of the tasting menu format that we do here at the restaurant, and how those kind of translate into, you know, the larger meal kits that we're doing now. So guests can kind of bring some of that home and make dinner for themselves and their families. So a few things on the docket, on the menu for this evening's presentation, and even if they don't really look like it, they all really come from Wilkinson, from Mike and Courtney at Wilkinson. And the beauty of being able to work so closely with growers like that is that it influences your menu every single day, and the menu is forced to change a little bit every single day. So there's always a constant evolution going. So anyway, before I ramble on too much, we're gonna get on with the courses. We always like to start our tasting menus with a caviar course. So I wanted to kind of explain, you know, the course itself, but also kind of why the dish exists. So we'll get into it. This first one is the Tsar Nikolai Estate caviar. And we're really fortunate they're a local caviar company out in Concord is where their offices are. But I believe they farm out of Sacramento, the Delta region. So we kind of wanted to do a play. You know, every morning I wake up, I have breakfast with my little one. He loves cereal to start each morning. So we kind of wanted to do a play on cereal. So we have a milk panna cotta here. And we wanted to keep it light. I needed to take some of the sugar out of a traditional panna cotta in order to make the compositions work and the flavor profiles work for the dish. So we went ahead and just kind of stamped out a little disc of it. And this is typically a starter or a first course that we do at the restaurant on our tasting menus. And we're going to season our panna cotta with some wild dill pollen. We're going to have cucumbers in this dish, and dill and cucumber, of course, is a classic pairing. Then we can go ahead and load up our caviar. Of course, we always want to use our mother of pearl spoons when we touch the caviar. Metal reacts, you know, silver reacts with the curing of the caviar. So we also don't really worry about how much we put on. The idea is that you're matching the amount of milk panna cotta with the caviar. So you want to make sure that in each of the bites that they're getting a little bit of everything in an even amount. And then the next step that we can do here is, you know, I mentioned we have cucumbers going with this. So we have some pickled cucumbers from Wilkinson. We can begin to kind of put some of these guys on there. Just kind of begin to dress our plate a little bit. Maybe one more. This will add a little acidic brightness to an otherwise saline or salty dish. And then we can add some, this is caramelized milk skin. So we want to kind of mimic that cereal. So in cereal, there's always some kind of puffed or crispy component, which typically by the end of it gets a little bit soggy. So we took some milk, seasoned it very gently with a little bit of sugar, and then put that into a ripping hot pan with a really thin layer. It's going to immediately boil up. And then after that little bit of sugar in the lactose and also the added refined sugar is going to start to caramelize. At that point, you can scrape it off and you get these crispy caramelized milk skins. And then on top of that, we can go ahead and finish with some of our cucumber soup. So now comes the liquid or soup component. And that's it. So kind of a way we like to kind of start our tasting menus here at the restaurant, something we've been doing for a while here. So. And then the next dish that we wanted to do, it's called a Chawan Mushi, or it's basically a dashi custard. And the reason I like them is because you get the sensation of a soup and a custard in the same thing. So it's very delicate. Steamed very gently in the steamer. It's 1 part, whisked up egg and 3 parts dashi broth. We kind of set our dashi broths up a little bit with 0.1% xanthan gum. So what it does is it gives a little bit of pseudoplasticity to the soup. So think like when you put it in your mouth, it'll coat your mouth cleanly with flavor and then also leave cleanly at the same time, rather than a really thick sauce, which is going to coat your mouth with flavor and then kind of stay for a little bit. So what we do is we take our custard and then we'll take some dry aged New York strip tartar, and we have it mixed up with a little bit of guanciale. There's some caper berries in there as well. So what we'll do is we'll just take some of this, lay it down. I kind of like to go into the corner a little bit and build up some of these flavors. Again, this would kind of be another first course or another one of our amuse-gueules or amuse-bouches that we send out in the beginning of our extended tasting menus. We do, I think, usually about three of these before we begin our actual meal. So caviar being one, this being another, and then typically a few more. Lay some of these caper berries down. That. And then this is also seasoned with some shallots, a little bit of Dijon mustard, and some vinegar as well. And then to this, we can add some crispy leaves of parsley. Typically in, tartars, you'll see herbs and parsley and that type of thing. All we did was we took some parsley leaves, fried them really quickly, really hot, and this allowed a little bit of a crunch to an otherwise soft dish. I always like to kind of play with the textures a little bit. And then we'll go ahead and take our dashi broth. This is the same dashi broth that is in the actual custard. There's just no eggs in this one. And we got to pour it very gently down the sides here. Just to coat that like that. Adds a little translucent liquid flavor to it, or a kind of sheen to it. And as always, we like to add a few drops of extra virgin olive oil. Another little canapé that we like to start with here. Now it looks like at this point that there's no Wilkinson Acres produce in there, but the dashi broth, which is sort of our version of a chicken stock, it touches a lot of different parts of the menu, is made with the trim of whatever produce and vegetables we get in. Of course, those ratios vary depending on what they are, depending on the time of the year. But nevertheless, we make the dashi, a traditional dashi, with bonito flakes and kombu and water. We season it traditionally with soy and mirin, thicken it a bit untraditionally with xanthan, and then of course it's as the broth is going, it starts as a vegetable stock, which is a lot of the trim from the amazing produce that we get. We don't use acidic things, however, like tomatoes in the broth itself. So that will kind of be like another little starter. So we'll do kind of more of the, you progress through the tasting menu, we'll get to more of the kind of entrees, not really entrees, but more of like the meat portions of the menu. Tonight we have an American Wagyu beef from Idaho, I believe. And it's an amazing product we started working with a few months back. We traditionally get the Japanese beef, the A5 Wagyu, flown in. But of course, you know, there's been issues with importing things from out of the country. So we'll go ahead and do the meat course now. So we'll start with a little tonkatsu sauce. And we'll just kind of go around our ring mold here. See if I can do this without making a huge mess. And we'll begin to start laying down some inside our ring mold. It's a little fricassee. This is essentially all Wilkinson Acres. We have basically a stew of lots of different types of sweet peppers that they grow. There's some shishitos, there's some murasaki sweet peppers as well. We have some crookneck squash in there. We have some also some garden celery and carrots that we get here at the restaurant. We make a stew out of all that with some tomatoes, of course. Blend all that up. Again, set it a little bit, and then chop up really small, dice up very finely all of those ingredients again, and then bind those two together. So what you get is a sort of jammy-like consistency without adding any gelatin or animal product or you know, pectin, apple pectin. So we can take some of this and begin to lay some down inside here. And this we're keeping cold, you know, for the dish. You could warm it up. If you warmed it up, of course, you would loosen it. And some of those properties of it being able to hold together and make a little base would kind of lose. But maybe you might want that. That's okay. And then to this, we can go ahead and add our actual beef itself, pull the ring mold off, and begin to finish it. So here we have our American Wagyu beef. It's been seared off. It's been bagged, seasoned, and cooked with some whole butter and some herbs, sort of almost poaching it, if you will, in butter and herbs. One of the beauties I like of cooking this way is if you can notice, season with a little flirt as well there. If you notice, it's kind of edge to edge, medium rare. It can get a little deceiving. Some people might think it might be undercooked, but it's cooked at a very controlled temperature, 135 degrees for a very controlled amount of time. So texturally, you feel that medium rare more than you would if you cooked it traditionally. But it's just a personal preference. By no means is it anything that, you know, anyone has to do if they don't want to. So we can go ahead and take our beef at this point, add it right into the dish. We can finish with some, this is a cultivated mushroom conserva. So essentially, take whatever mushrooms you want, add them to some olive oil, heat that olive oil to 170 degrees, add the mushrooms to that olive oil, season it, and add vinegar, and then let that cool, let that cook for about 5 minutes, and then let that cool down in the mushroom. It's a way of preserving mushrooms while also adding a tremendous amount of flavor to them. This would typically be done with wild mushrooms, but we're just getting cultivated mushrooms right now. So we can go ahead and add these to our dish. Now we can go ahead and top off the mold. And finish our dish with some issues, so that bear with me. It's my first Zoom meeting, everyone. And with the meat dishes, or the protein dishes, we always try to finish with some kind of aromatic flavor or aromatic seasoning. Of course, we always love crunchy sea salt on our proteins, but I also am a fan of wild fennel pollen. So we'll finish everything off with a bit of wild fennel pollen. So that would be a pretty typical representation of a meat course that we do here at the restaurant. And lastly, we'll finish with a dessert. Might be a little bit, might be a little bit awkward, but heirloom tomato season is my absolute favorite season throughout the year. That and stone fruit. But we wanted to do a dessert based around tomatoes, which is a typical thing that we do here, trying to blend or balance sweet and savory applications. So we can go ahead and do that now. So we'll just grab a dish. We have some heirloom tomato tartar, which is essentially just diced up heirloom tomatoes seasoned with truffle aged balsamic vinegar and a little bit of olive oil. And of course, when you add salt to that, liquid reaches out. So to bind that, I'll just take a little bit of Swiss meringue that we've aerated. So meringue cooked to 70 degrees Celsius in a water bath, buzzed up with a bunch of sugar. We'll just add a little bit here. Not too much because we are going to add more. But by adding it to our tartar, you can see that liquid in there that's moving. Just mix it up like this. We're going to increase some of that pseudoplasticity like we did with the Dashi Broth, kind of mimic that. So we can kind of capture that in the mouthfeels rather than it just kind of go everywhere. So now we can add that to our bowl. That liquid is just going to kind of contain itself at the bottom. It's not going to run everywhere. And now we can add a bit more of our meringue right off to the side. This is a beautiful product because you can, of course, toast it really quickly. And then to keep that sweet and salty thing going, it's not really any salt to this, but this is a traditional beurre noisette or brown butter and sage sauce. But if I were to just do a traditional brown butter sauce, it would just kind of run and make a mess. So we make a powder out of it using some tapioca starch, basically tapioca maltodextrin. It's going to add a warm brown butter and herb kind of flavor, but it's also going to act as the trivet or the pedestal for our scoop for the heirloom tomato ice cream. So before we do the ice cream, we have one more component, which is the Nitro Creme Fraiche Sapayan. It's a cold component. It's going to add a cold dimension or a cold texture to the dish. So we can do that right now. Grab a pot. Grab some nitrogen. Not too much, you just need enough to be able to make it. And then we'll grab a Sauvignon that's 50% Sauvignon, 50% creme fraiche. Again, aerated in one of these Starbucks whipped cream cans. And fat-based fat-based mousses and nitrogen work really well. It creates a really light, crunchy kind of mousse, whereas if it was a liquid-based ingredient here, it would just be ice, obviously, and it would burn yourself. So we do, or freezer burn your mouth. So we do always fat-based. So we'll just inject some of it in here like that. And you can grab a spoon. You can see how it immediately becomes solid like that. And, I mean, you can put your hand in there. It's not going to hurt you. We just break some of that up. I kind of like larger chunks like that. You could use a hand mixer to make a really fine snow, but I feel like you lose some of that textural component, which is a huge part of doing this, aside from being a light, airy mousse. So I like to leave some larger chunks. So at this point, we can scoop our tomato ice cream and then finish with this. So we run all of our ice creams fresh here at the restaurant. A little hot water, spoon in the water. Scoop. And because it's heirloom tomatoes seasoned with balsamic vinegar, we got to season our ice cream with salt. Again, creating that bridge, salty sweet. We can top with some of our space rocks of Nitro Creme Fraiche Sauvignon here. Another benefit of doing it like this is the little bit of nitrogen that is kind of smoking onto the dish will help set that outside layer of the ice cream a bit so you can keep your shape. So when it does get to the guests, it's not going to just start running and melting everywhere. They'll actually have nice mouthfuls of ice creams. So that's kind of it. So these are our dishes. Kind of a pretty typical representation of what we do here at the restaurant. but always featuring amazing produce, always featuring amazing products that we can find both locally and abroad. And as it relates to Wilkinson and getting produce from them, every aspect is touched, and we want to make sure that we maintain that thread or that harmony throughout the restaurant, throughout the menu rather, as best we can, continue to evolve that. So that's kind of it. So thank you all, everybody. We really appreciate you, and really thank you for letting me do this and telling you a bit about our restaurant.
All right, thank you, Michael. This is making me so hungry. Can I come in and just eat that now? That was great. All right, we'll circle back with you at the end, and you can tell us more about this week's meal kit in a minute. But before we go there, I want to jump over to Sassoon Creek Winery. Welcome, Brian and Katie. And so tell us about your winery. Brian, you have a lot of experience making wine, like 20 years-ish. And so has it all been at Sassoon Creek, or has it not been all at Sassoon Creek?
No, I actually worked for a lot of other people, so I get to make my mistakes on their dime. But what I did is my family originally bought the property back about 40 years ago. My father did, and we had a farm much like Wilkinson Acres. We started off with fruit trees, so cherries, pears, prunes, which were pretty dominant in Suisun Valley at the time, and then cherries would go bad, so we started a little 5-acre farm, and so we did a lot of fruits and vegetables. Sold them at farmers markets and had a fruit stand, open all the time, and kind of did that. And that's kind of how I grew up. I'd drive around a little golf cart and pick up, people's pick produce for them. So I spent my summers as a kid. And then we started planting grapes in 89, 90, something like that. So about 30 years ago. And we were predominantly just grape growers. And as we expanded, trees came out, grapes went in, so forth and so on. And and this is all about during my high school career. And when you're in high school, nobody really knows what they want to do. You think you do, but so I ended up saying, well, I see grapes, I'll try and do that. So I went to school to Davis for viticulture and enology. And from there, it was really more for the viticulture side, but they just came out with their enology program. And I said, okay, I'll try to do that. And one of the things that got me interested in the wine was I came home one summer and I was like, well, we have some, in this block of Merlot that we had, there was like 10 or 15 Pinot Noir vines scattered randomly throughout. It's just kind of a mistake during grafting, but you can tell the difference between the two varieties. And they ripen earlier than Merlot. So I went out and I picked those 10 vines, and I was probably 19 at the time, maybe. And I made wine for the first time, and that was it. And it was just basically in a garbage can, home winemaking at its basics. And it was the most beautiful wine I've ever made. And then not knowing anything about wine, really, we kind of went and put it in barrel, and I just kind of let it go. And it turns out you can't do that. And so then it turned into the worst wine I've ever made. So it was those mistakes that I learned that's how you what to do and what not to do. I'm glad I did it on a small scale and not in front of anybody but myself. But that was kind of how I kind of cut my teeth. And you make those mistakes and you ask those questions, and then it helps, I think, aid in the learning process. And that's kind of where I was. So when I got out of school, I did a few small stints at wineries, came back home, worked the vineyards for a few years. Got those kind of established and going, and then decided I wanted to go back in the wine business. So I was a winemaker at a large winery, Trinquero Family Estates. They run a bunch of different brands. I was there for about 8 years, and then my dad decided that he was kind of wanting to retire as much as a farmer can retire. And I came back and I said, I'll do it, but to run the vineyards, but I got to make my wine. So that's where Suisun Creek started. So in 2016, we started making our first wines, which were 2 reds, Petit Syrah and Zinfandel. And then we've added some more wines every year since we started. So that's kind of where That's the long and short of where we're at.
That's the history.
That's the history. There it is.
That's the history. And so your wines are what's called estate grown. And so can you tell us what that means?
Correct. So estate grown means that it's the technical term is that you either own or have control of the vineyards that you source your fruit from. So that's us. We don't buy fruit from other people. Everything that we grow, or all the wines that we make, we come from our own vineyards and stuff that we've planted, and we know everything that's happened from basically the time that they were rootstock and everything that happened during the season to the time that they come into the winery, and they never leave.
So that's something we're really proud of, because Brian works the vineyard, so he has control of from the dirt to the grapes to the bottle. So he's able to control as much as the farmer can what's going on in the soils and what's going on with the vines to be able to produce the best grapes and then in turn produce the best wines that we can. So that's something we're really proud of, is that everything stays on our property.
Right.
The hard part is I've got nobody to blame if something goes wrong. It's all on me.
Well, that's true. So you've got 5 bottles behind you there. Can you give us a quick overview of are all of those for sale? I think that's also another question.
Yeah, yes, they're all for sale. Yes, we do currently have 5 wines. We have a few more in barrels that will come out the next few years. This harvest, we're gonna add a couple more. So there'll be more, but for what we have right now we'll just kind of go through them quickly. Is we have our Verdelho, our 2019 Verdelho, which is actually our sweet wine. Do you want to talk anything about this?
Sure. No. So we had people asking us for a sweeter wine, and there's a certain demand for that. So we said, sure, we can do one. And of the varieties that we grow, because we're all estate, I'm not buying fruit. The Verdelho, based on its aromatics and its nose, it kind of lends itself to kind of being sweet. It's got a lot of stone fruit, apricot, peachy sort of stuff going on. So that one kind of lent itself. So we left it just a little bit sweet for some people. It's usually hopefully not too sweet, not like a dessert wine necessarily, but something more on a nice hot day is a good wine.
This is our porch wine. We call it porch. You just want to sit on your porch with a cool glass of it. And then this is our Sauvignon Blanc. This is our second vintage of Sauvignon Blanc, 2019.
Mm-hmm. So this one is going to have your more typical Sauv Blanc. It's going to be a little more acidic. It's dry. It's going to have lemongrass, herbaceous, some citrus kind of notes to it. So that's the one that we like.
Yes. And then this is our world famous Chardonnay. I like to call it world famous. This is the one that hooks everybody in. But this is our 2018 Chardonnay, classic California Chardonnay. We age it in barrels, vanilla, creme brulee, buttery, oaky. It's just my favorite.
So Katie asked me to do that. Chardonnay, from a winemaking standpoint, you can take in a lot of different directions, and there's a lot of winemaker play there. So we can kind of take it however we want. And she told me to make something really oaky, buttery, and but oaky not in the sense of like eating wood, but more in that of those barrel notes. So the vanilla, the caramels, the butterscotch, the kind of the sweet tones. So we did that, and turns out people like it.
Yeah. So you get those flavors from the oak profile, from the barrels that we use and how they toast it. Those flavors come through strictly from the barrel. And then we have 2 reds. So we have our Zinfandel. This is, again, our second vintage of Zinfandel. This is our 2017 Zinfandel.
So Zinfandel, when we planted it right along Suisun Creek. And the reason is Zinfandel can be kind of a big vine. You want to slow it down early, kind of stress it a little bit. So the sandier soils along the creek kind of help enable us to do that. I like my wines a little more fruit forward. So like the Zinfandel, we picked pretty late and let really a lot of those jammy fruit characters come out. And then those spicy notes that you kind of associate with Zinfandel kind of play that, backseat sort of thing. They're there, and a lot of people pick up on those. But for me, it's more of a fruit forward wine, and it's kind of a wine that goes with everything.
It does.
It's kind of like you have a steak, that's fine, chicken fine, burger fine, pizza, whatever. But it's kind of a universal fit.
It is, yes. That's the universal.
So
if somebody says, I don't know what to drink, just open up the Zinfandel. You're fine. Right. And then this is our second vintage of our Petit Syrah. This is our 2017 Petit Syrah.
So this one, so Petit Syrah in Suisun Valley is becoming really, really popular. We're learning that we can do a really good job with it here. And I can't put my finger on why, it just works. So part of that is, I think just the climate is really geared toward it. What we do is we actually do a lot of crop manipulation. So we'll drop crop in order to kind of concentrate a lot of flavors and really make it bold. We pick late to really harvest all of that goodness in there, and it's a pretty big wine. It's my favorite, but I like something a little more bold. So that's what we do, and it's got a lot of nice currant berry flavors, a little bit of that spice too. All of the red wines spend about 1.5 to 2 years in barrel, so they're going to get a little bit tannin. But if you like big red wines and you're going to pair it with a nice big cut of meat, then that's the one. So
there we go.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much. So how can people find your wines? Do you guys have a tasting room? I'm trying to remember.
We do. Yeah, we do. It's actually our production facility. So when you come visit us, you are right in our kitchen. Like Michael, we were right in his kitchen watching him do his thing. So same thing, it's our production facility. So we open it, and during COVID times, we need to be outside. So we have a nice patio outside, tables. We're right on Morrison Lane in Sassoon Valley, 2350. It's actually an airplane hangar, which is kind of cool. The door opens up and there's all of our tanks and everything. So yeah, if you just head down Morrison Lane on Saturdays and Sundays, we're open those days from 12 to 5. So just the weekend, and you will see us, employee number 1 and employee number 2. That's it. So we will be there. So it's 12 to 5, Saturdays and Sundays. And then again, on social media and our website, you can find descriptions of our wines on our website. If you follow us on Instagram or Facebook, just Sassoon Creek Winery, we post information about us, but you can find us there, or just head down Morrison Lane, the big blue airplane hangar.
Great. Thank you, Brian and Katie. Michael, I want to jump back to you and just have you tell us a little bit more about the meal kits. When will do you know what you're doing this weekend, or are you still formulating that based on Wilkinson's produce list, which I think I just saw today? So
yeah, and this, I know what I'm doing as of right now, simply because we needed to do some different structuring in order to get the Bounty of the County packages squared away. So I was getting all this stuff squared away today, so I don't have the menu posted yet. However, I'll go home tonight, work on it. So tomorrow morning, you can see the menu on our Facebook page, Michael Waring. Our website is, as of this past weekend, is all redone now. So we also post our meal kit menus each week on michaelwaring.com. As of now, the ordering platform on our new website isn't really working all the way yet. So it's still, you just call us at the restaurant and place the orders by Friday of each week. We don't really have a time, but if you call before 6 or 6:30, that'd be just fine. I come in on the weekends, and then it's just me. So I prepare everything, and I fill all the orders. And then pickup is on Sundays between 1 and 3 o'clock. So you can just come. We only let one group or one guest in at a time, and or if you like, you give a call. We can bring it out to you, whatever you feel more comfortable with. But and so that's it. So basically, they're packaged in even numbers, so you're able to order for dinner for 2, 4, 6, 8, any sized group that you like. And then starting this upcoming Sunday, we're going to be, of course, featuring. Well, we always feature Wilkinson Acres, but now we're going to be able to feature Sassoon Creek as part of the Bounty of the County meal kit packages that we're going to be doing. So while we get our ordering platform squared away, you just give me a call. You let me know that you're interested in doing the Bounty of the County package, and I've already got the menu squared away by that point. And then with what Sassoon Creek wants to include in that package. I know they also have all of their wines for sale. They just went through that, but the menus here at the restaurant, they change every single week. So I'm sure there'll be some different features that kind of go through the menus through the week. So that's it. So we just keep it pretty simple as of now, and then once we get technologically advanced, we're going to be getting a ordering platform on our new site. So
awesome, thank you, Michael. Yeah, and I've ordered his meal kits. Well, once I've been in your restaurant a handful of times, and then I did order a meal kit, and it's super fun. He has a video to help guide you through it. There's written instructions. You get some things are already done, like special sauces, etc. And then for the most part, you, the customer, are finishing off some things at home in your home kitchen, following his instructions. And it's really a fun experience. And I can see some other people in the chat are saying, I've never missed a Sunday meal kit. So
yeah, we wanted to, like with the demo, you know, that will be stuff that we've done at the restaurant for a really long time. So we can't obviously do that. We can't package up a tasting menu of 9 to 12 courses to go. It doesn't really work, you know. So what we wanted to do was still offer the idea or the ethos of the restaurant that you could bring home and do in your own kitchen. So we get all of the stuff that would take time done, and then all the guests is really doing is kind of assembling and then going through the I guess the protein portion, but that's it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Anyway, it was all fantastic. The in-restaurant experience and the meal kit was all very tasty, and I think it'd be super exciting to then pair it up with some Sassoon Creek wine. So everybody participating out there, you 17, 20 people, whoever you are, that's your job now, is to plan out your Sunday dinner with Michael wearing meal kits. Okay, so let's jump to the question and answer session. If you want to raise your hand and speak directly to our guests, feel free, and I should be able to see you if you raise your hand, and then we can unmute you and you can talk to them, or you can just post a question in the chat. So let's see, I'm looking if there's any raised hands going up. Don't be shy, these are all friendly people. Let's see, you know what, I did see, oh, I got questions here in the chat. On the caviar dish, are those lemon cucumbers? And there's just a comment about they love how you've pickled them for your meal kits. So we want more details on the cucumbers.
Yeah, exactly. So we, you know, again, coming from Mike and Courtney, they are lemon cucumbers. We've been getting them, you know, not every single week, but throughout the season. And, you know, when you have large amounts of things, you don't want to go and use nothing to go to waste. So any little pieces that don't go into some other preparation, I just pickle them. You know, we do a lot of pickling, a lot of fermenting, preserving those mushrooms that you saw on the beef dish earlier, a technique of preserving. So ways of taking really great products and not wasting them. Of course, the right practices, you want to use up as much as you possibly can from these amazing things that people are putting a lot of work into, but you also want to be able to continue to offer them. You know, even maybe when cucumber season goes away or stone fruit season goes away, if you've preserved some of those things, you can use them in interesting ways. So.
Great, thank you. And then Michael, there's another question about the meal kits. Somebody's wondering if there is a vegetarian option.
Yeah, I mean, we don't really have options. The menus themselves are not meat-based, really. So there's not a lot of chicken stock being used. There's not a lot of beef stock, that kind of thing. There, of course, is always a protein involved, but you know, it's really just the one piece. Everything else is completely vegetarian. So you know, when you order the meal kits, of course, you're going to be talking to me on the phone. We can have a dialogue, that kind of thing. But technically, no options. But for vegetarians, no, we've had vegetarians in the restaurant for the past eight years now, basically. So there's really no issues with accommodating that. So.
Sorry, I was muted. Okay, I have somebody raising their hand. This is Ed Thomas. Ed, I'm trying to unmute you. I hope you're unmuted now. There you are.
I think you unmuted me. I think that worked. I've got a question for all of you. In one of the meal kits, Michael put the shishito peppers and had us char them. terrific. And so and then he told us where he got them. So last Saturday, I came out and got a big bag of them from the farm stand and charged some more. And that was fun today to see him using them in a different way, I guess, in that stew kind of thing. But that's my question for all of you is, what other things can I do with those shishito peppers besides charring them, which I love? And then I need to know what to pair it with. Is that a white wine kind of? I mean, I'm generally a red wine kind of guy myself, but I guess the other part of that question is, what's a good thing to pair those kind of charred shishito peppers? Is it like a white wine to kind of cleanse the palate and go in for more, or any of you just have at it?
Great question, Ed. Who wants to take it first?
Wilkinson.
No problem. Yeah, I mean, I know that, charring them is kind of one of the most common ways to do it. A couple other I mean, we throw them in everything because they're nice and mild. They don't have any spice to them, so they're just a great addition to tons of things. Mike, he makes a really good salsa that I love. He'll throw it in salsa. I know some of our chefs in some of our other restaurants have put it in like cornbread, like if they're doing a sweet pepper cornbread or a chili, perhaps, something like that.
Courtney's also pickled them before.
Oh,
and
yeah,
they were absolutely delicious.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm sure Michael, I know he's been getting a lot of the spotlight here, but I'm sure he could give a ton more dishes.
The problem with the restaurant is that it's always about breaking everything down and putting it back together again. So, they're delicious peppers. There's not, if you have some aversions to heat or capsaicin or spice or that type of thing, not to worry. Essentially whatever you want to do. You could make jams, marmalades out of them. We make sauces out of them. You could eat them whole when they're fresh. You could pickle, ferment, whatever, preserve in any way you wanted to. But and they also just make great snacks. I mean, if you want to just make like a dip, some kind of like refreshing dip or something, and use it as part of a crudité or like a raw vegetable kind of thing. I mean, it's beautiful. I mean, they're just amazing.
Field snacks.
Yeah.
That's for sure. As far as no, that's not our forte. Nice to see you.
Brian and Katie, what do you think about the wine going with the shishitos?
Well, I mean, I would probably have to taste it, so Michael would probably have to drop something off.
We go down to Wilkinson
or just pick them up, I guess. Trade you a bottle of wine for some shishito mushrooms or peppers. But my guess is, if generally peppers, probably the Sauvignon Blanc is going to go, because those peppers are not spicy hot. If you're dealing with something spicier, I'd probably go with the Riedel, which is going to add some sweetness and maybe kind of cut some of that spice down, just kind of accentuate that. Now, Ed, you saying you're a red wine guy? If that's the case and all you got open is some Zinfandel, I'd go with that.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
You bet.
Hope to see you Saturday.
Oh, yeah.
Before we open.
Last two. No pressure, no pressure.
Okay, thanks, Ed. Let's see. Okay, let me see if there's any other questions. I don't see any more raised hands. Okay. No other questions in the chat. Okay, thanks. I'm getting memos here. Okay, no other questions in the chat. So I would say, if anybody has one last burning question, throw your hand up, ask directly to our guests. And if not, we will wrap it up. Okay, I'm scanning. Give me a second here just to make sure I don't see any hands. Okay. All right, I think, thank you, Allison. We do have a survey before we sign off. This helps us out when we need to do reports for funders and anything else in our world. So Allison has posted a link to a Surveymonkey survey. It is not long. It's probably like 6 or 7 questions, and it really helps us out. So if you guys could jump onto that after we're done or now and save the link, that would be great. So again, I just want to thank all of you for joining us, and I especially want to thank our guests, Michael, Mike and Courtney, Brian and Katie, and I know Allie, Michael's wife, is back there doing some filming. So thanks to her too for helping to pull all this together. And we look forward to seeing you guys at next week's Bounty of the County presentation, which will feature Chef Lindsay Cellini of Backdoor Bistro in Vacaville. And her partner farm is Terra Firma. So we will have Alicia Badorf here from Terra Firma Farm. And our winery of the week will be Wooden Valley Winery. And I'm guessing it'll be Ron Lanza or one of those Lanzas joining us for Wooden Valley. So Allison just posted a link to the next presentation, and we look forward to seeing you guys then. So thank you so much. See you next time. Bye-bye.